Hi everyone, welcome back. For those who are new here, my name is Adriana. I like everything DIY, thrifting, sewing, gardening, just to name a few. Today I'll be working on these wooden 3D pumpkins. I had purchased 3 of them last year at the end of the fall season. I bought them from CVS. They were originally $4.99 and I did get them discounted, and I believe I paid $1.50 each. Now, I'm going to do 3 different techniques on these pumpkins. Don't worry if you don't have these pumpkins, you could do it on a flat wooden pumpkin that you buy either at the dollar store or Michael's. For the first pumpkin, I'm going to use IOD transfer in English Toile, which is one of my favorites. I had a leftover piece, so I'm going to use this on the pumpkin. So I just place it on the pumpkin and just cut around it. Now, I need it to fit snug into the corner, so I'm going to put a crease in the transfer before, obviously, I take off the backing. Now, see here, it fits, so I'm going to go ahead, remove the white backing. So you're going to place the transfer down on your surface, and then you're going to take your transfer tool and you're going to rub. As you rub, you'll notice that the design will get lighter. That means it's sticking to the surface. And if you do peel the plastic back and your design hasn't stick, just put it right back down and just, continue to rub. Now, once you peel the plastic off, I flip it around on the non-sticking side and just rub it. Make sure it's, attached to the surface. Now here I took my X-Acto knife just to cut into the transfer so it lays flat in that corner. I'm just going over it with my fingers to make sure it's sticking, because I did get some on the outer part of the pumpkin, but look at it, it's so pretty. Now here I wanted to add a little bit more to one of the trees. I thought it was a little bit bare. So again, you're just gonna cut. This is great with the transfers. You can just cut any piece you want to add. Just take off the backing, stick it down, use your transfer tool, and there you go. Look how pretty. I'm loving the toile. So now I just have that one spot to fill in. So again, I'm just gonna cut another piece of the transfer and add it. How many times did I say it? I love it. Look at this toile. Just so pretty. Now I'm going to set it aside and work on the other pumpkin. I'm not done with this yet, but this is how I work. It's a little crazy, but stick with me. Now for the second pumpkin, I will be using IOD Mold in Olive Crest. Now when you're using the mold, you're going to want to brush a little bit of cornstarch. Now make sure you get into the crevices. This is so whatever you use in the clay, resin, it's not going to stick. So just flip it over and remove the excess. Now to make the mold, I'm using a product called Magic Sculpt. I purchased it on Amazon. It is a 2-part mixture. You have the white resin and then you're going to have the hardener. So now I eyeball it. You can always mix up more, but I do use gloves because this product is a little bit sticky. So you just take an equal part of the white resin, equal part of the hardener, you mix it until it's white. I find this a little bit stickier to work with, but just like air dry clay, you put it in. And what's great about the IOD molds, they do have like a little lip around it so you can just remove the excess clay. Now, I use my brayer just to push it in. If you don't have one, just push down really hard. I do one extra step when I'm using this resin. I just take my finger, dip it in a little water, and just smooth it. I do stick the whole mold in the freezer for 15 minutes, whether you're using the air dry clay or this. It works the same. They just pop out of the mold easily. After 15 minutes, I'm going to take the mold out and I'm going to start gluing it to the pumpkin. Now, I'm using Titan Bomb glue. You could use anything you really have on hand. I just wouldn't use hot glue gun because the mold doesn't lay flush. I feel like it raises it up a little bit. So now I'm just going to take a paintbrush and just lightly brush on the glue. Not too thick because you don't want it oozing on the sides. Now I'm going to stick it to the pumpkin. I'm going with the curve of the mold to the curve of the pumpkin. Now you could do it either way, it's just your preference. Now I'm going to do this on all sides of the pumpkin. I had to make obviously a few molds off camera. So now you're just going to glue it. After you glue it, you just want to make sure you press it down lightly. Don't, make a dent in the mold. And then you're just going to set it aside and let it dry. This glue does dry fast, so you're able to move on and glue the rest of them. While that dries, I'm going to work on the tall pumpkin. Now, for the third pumpkin, I did lose the footage, but I will show you what I did to it and explain. I decided I didn't want the jute, so I just removed it. Now, when I did remove it, it had a little bit of a hot glue, so I just took my finger sander and just started sanding it to make it smooth. After it was smooth, I decided I think I'm going to go with the DIY Golden Rule. It's a gold gilding wax. Now, if you don't have this, you can always use Rub and Buff, which you could buy at any craft store, which is one of my favorite products too. But I must say, I don't really use this. I had ordered it, but it goes on nicely. I like it. After I put it on the stem, I decided I wanted to go down the sides. So I just took my paintbrush and brushed on all four sides. Wow, look how pretty that looks. It really makes it pop. Now I want to add a bow to this pumpkin. So I'm going to take a piece of the flour sack towel. I purchased them by the pack at Walmart. Now they're great to have because you could dye them in tea or coffee, or you could leave them white. You cut them and just tear them. Here I did the same to a curtain panel that I had. I had ordered it from Amazon. It's a gold velvet. So I do the same. I cut it and tear it, and it actually looks like a ribbon off a roll. So here I just made a finger bow, and now I'm going to attach both to the stem. When you're making a finger bow, you just have to play with it until you actually get it exactly the way you want it. Now that I played with the bow for a little bit and got it exactly the way I want it. Now I took the flour sack and wrapped it around the stem, tied a knot, and made a bow. Now I took my velvet bow and a little bit of hot glue and just glued it on top of the white bow that I had tied on. Now I'm going to cut the tails of the bow in a V shape. So with that, you just take the ribbon, fold it in half like I'm doing here, and you take the scissor and cut down, and that's going to give you the V shape. Now on the white ribbon, I just cut it. You guessed it, I'm not done with this pumpkin yet. So I took another piece, but this time a little bit thinner. I ripped the flour sack towel, and I had purchased last year a pack of these golden keys from Amazon, and I'm going to take the ribbon and just put it through and tie a knot, and then I'm just going to tie it to the stem, but actually underneath the bow. This French tall pumpkin is now complete. Now that the molds are all dried, I'm going to move on and complete the second pumpkin. Now again, it has jute twine. I didn't like the look of it, so I'm just going to simply remove it. It's going to have the glue from the hot glue that they use to keep the jute in place. So I'm just going to take my finger sander and lightly sand it. Now that the stem is smooth, I'm going to use the Waverly Antiquing Wax. This time I'm not watering it down. I'm just going to use it straight from the bottle. And I'm just going to brush it on. I actually let it dry a little bit. You can wipe it off if you want like a lighter color. But once it dries, then I just go over it with a paper towel. I'm not waiting for the stem to dry. I'm just going to move on. So I would suggest you wait or use a heat gun to let it dry a little on a cool setting. I'm moving on, and the next step I'm going to use One of my favorites. If you watch my videos, you know I'm a big Annie Sloan. Uh, I love her waxes, especially the clear wax. I use it on everything. So here I am going to use the antiquing wax, but before I ever use antiquing wax on something that I just want to highlight, I always use the clear wax first. So I'm just going to lightly go over this whole pumpkin with the Annie Stone clear wax. After I gave the pumpkin one full coat of the clear wax, I'm just going to take a paper towel and remove any excess. I'm not waiting for the clear wax to dry. I'm just going to go straight in with the dark wax by Annie Sloan. I take the same brush, I dip it in. I remove a little bit of the excess on the paper towel. Now, the beauty of putting the clear wax on first, if you get too much of the dark wax, you can really just wipe it down and it pretty much will come all off if you really wipe it. Now, I just go in lightly and I go into all the grooves and the crevices and I actually build it up because, I like starting off light and then I add more. Now you take a paper towel, and I didn't want as much wax on the actual pumpkin. I wanted more on the mold. So I just take a paper towel and go in and just remove it. Now I am going to do the ends of the pumpkin. And again, just take a paper towel and wipe it down. And I'm going to finish the whole pumpkin doing the same technique. Now that I add the dark wax on all sides of the pumpkin and I remove the excess, I decided not to add anything to the stem. I really liked the look of the pumpkin and I thought it would take away the beauty of the mold. So I'm just going to leave it as is. This is the third pumpkin. I apologize, I lost all the footage to it, but I did want to show you. So on this pumpkin, I used Modpodge and I used it was a piece of a dictionary page that had apple pie and the other one was pumpkin pie. So I just placed it on the pumpkin, cut around it. I gave it one coat of Modpodge, placed the dictionary page down, and then I just sealed it with another coat of Modpodge. Here I'm actually using the Annie Sloan wax because I always like giving that a nice finish of the Annie Sloan wax. And I'm leaving the twine. I love the look of this pumpkin, and this one's complete. Well, guys, I hope you like how I took these simple pumpkins and gave them a new look. I must say, I love all three. Leave me a comment on which one was your favorite. I hope I gave you a few ideas on how you can take an item and make it your own, just by using a few simple techniques. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. Happy crafting, my friends. Ciao.